1 month later, Aphil has become a deadly archer by combining the Dragon King's blessing and archery. She has created her own original skill. At the guild, Angie, the guild secretary, congratulates them on another successful mission. Angie has become friends with Aphil and tells her about a new dessert cafe in town. They decide to go check it out and Aphil invites Kelvin to join them. The next day the three meet up and Kelvin is stunned by how cute Aphil looks. They head to the cafe and Kelvin becomes embarrassed when Aphil tries to feed him. Everyone watches them, jealous that Kelvin is on a date with two girls. Suddenly their table is knocked over by the third prince of Tryson, Tibira, and his two guards. The prince arrogantly sends his guards to grab Angie and Aphil, so Kelvin beats them up and sends them flying. Kelvin binds him with his magic and forces him to explain his business. Tibira admits he came to hire a rumored strong adventurer to boost his poor reputation. Kelvin reveals he is the adventurer and refuses to bear his offer. Meanwhile, Melfina visits the temple of Daramis. She appears before Colette the oracle, who shows her how the heroes have been progressing. Melfina imparts a prophecy ordering the heroes to deal with an evil in the west and to stay away from Parth, where Kelvin is staying. Melfina leaves just as the heroes arrive and Colette informs them of their new mission. Back at the end, Aphil asks if Kelvin finds her attractive. Kelvin becomes flustered and Aphil tells him she loves him. Kelvin reassures her but resists his desire as she is still a slave and he feels he would be taking advantage. The next day, Melfina shows Kelvin the stats of the heroes of Daramis. Kelvin is not impressed, seeing that they are only around level 50 after a whole year. Melfina is also disappointed in them and sees that Kelvin has already almost surpassed them. Claire interrupts, telling them that the guild has called for them. Kelvin meets with Leo, who tells him that a sealed demon was discovered in a hidden room of a dungeon. Melfina tells him that demons are among the most powerful beings in this world. Leo mentions the trouble he caused by attacking the Tryson prince and Kelvin quickly accepts the mission. Kelvin and his party head into the dungeon. They head through the cave and come to the hidden room. As they enter, they find the sealed demon, but there is a second demon who introduces itself as Victor the Archdemon. Kelvin asks about the sealed demon and Victor reveals she is the daughter of the most recently defeated demon lord. She was sealed by a magic that only a human can break. Victor hopes that by eating Kelvin he will gain the human ability to break the seal, and then he will eat the girl to become the next demon lord himself. Victor blocks the exit and charges at them, which Gerard manages to block. Kelvin tries to restrain his movements but Victor easily breaks free. Kelvin begins smiling and Gerard reveals to Aphil that Kelvin has an unfortunate habit. He is a battle junkie. The more powerful his opponents, the more excited he becomes. Victor levels the playing field, summoning skeletons with his black magic. The skeletons attack but Kelvin and his party are able to defend themselves and easily able to take them out. Victor admires their teamwork. He punches the ground and creates a smokescreen. However, Kelvin tracks him with his magic, predicting his next move. Victor attacks from underground but Gerard blocks the hit thanks to Kelvin's warning. An arm tries to grab Kelvin but he manages to dodge it. Victor overpowers Gerard and blasts him away. Victor continues to attack Kelvin with his arm and closes in on him. Kelvin calls for Clotho, who attaches itself on Victor's arm and begins to absorb his magic. While he is distracted, Kelvin casts his binding spell and seals one of Victor's arms. Victor tries to free himself while Kelvin buffs Gerard's sword with his Vortex Edge spell. Victor tries to counter-attack with his other arm but Aphil emerges from stealth and fires a blazing arrow. Victor blocks the arrow, sacrificing his arm, and Gerard slashes and severs the other. Victor doesn't give up, he covers himself with a black smoke and begins to transform. The trio tries to attack before he completes his transformation but they are too late. With his new form, Victor dashes to attack but Gerard manages to block him and even push him back. He continues his attack but gets knocked down by Victor. Aphil provides support with her arrows and Kelvin summons Clotho, who spews tons of cursed weapons down on him. All of Kelvin's failures from blacksmithing. Kelvin, Aphil and Clotho attacks with their strongest moves combining together and devastating Victor sent flying, and a stone pillar breaks and falls towards Sarah. Victor protects her with the last of his strength and falls. Kelvin asks why he protected her and Victor admits he was never going to eat Sarah. In reality, Victor was Sarah's caretaker. He taught her how to fight and was her only companion. However, one day they were attacked by the Empire's hero, and before he died, to keep her safe, Sarah's father sealed her away and told Victor to watch over her. Victor had planned to revive Sarah in a weaker era where she could have ruled as the Demon King. As his dying request, Victor asks Kelvin to add Sarah to his party so she can finally see the world. Kelvin agrees and Victor dies peacefully. Despite the risk she will become the next Demon King, Kelvin breaks her seal. Sarah wakes up aware of her situation and cries for Victor. Kelvin reports his success to the other adventurers and pretends Sarah was one of Victor's victims. With her magic hairband she is able to hide her wings and horns. Gerard evolves into an Abyssal Knight Commander, an S-ranked monster gaining a massive buff to his stats. Sarah worries about joining the team, but Kelvin assures her with his S-rank concealment skill no one will find out she is the daughter of the Demon Lord. The team heads back to town and Sarah is amazed and excited by everything around. She had always been alone and this is her first time in a town. Later Kelvin checks in with Leo at the guild, who promotes him to a rank for defeating Victor. When he gets back to the end there is a surprise party to celebrate his promotion. They have a crazy night and everyone ends up passed up drunk. Outside, Sarah mourns for Victor, who was her only childhood companion. She decides to experience the entire world in Victor's memory, in particular to see the ocean and learn to swim like Victor once promised her. Sometime after, Kelvin and Ephil's crafting skills reach S rank and the party gets new gear. Sarah gets a new outfit and gauntlets created from Victor's carapace, and Gerard gets a new demonic sword. Kelvin gets tired after all the crafting and Ephil offers to make him some food. He asks for rice, but Ephil doesn't know what that is. Kelvin hasn't been able to eat it since coming to this world. The party heads off to the coastal city Torridge, where rice can be found and Sarah can see more of the world. Gerard reports that Melfina is missing. She had told Kelvin that since he can't summon her she left to try and possess one of her proxies so she could join them in the physical world. Gerard suspects Melfina is jealous of the two ladies in the party. Along their journey their carriage is stopped by a woman and a gang of bandits appear. They boast about being the infamous gang known as Black Wind. Kelvin checks their stats and sees that they are only around level 30. He tells Sarah to deal with them and tells her not to use her new gauntlets. Sarah sends a bandit flying and is surprised he was so weak. One of the bandits' attacks was his giant hammer, but Sarah effortlessly stops him and pushes him away. Sarah ties them all up, but the woman boasts about their boss, who is level 70, causing Kelvin to be interested and interrogate her. The group makes it to Torres and Sarah is amazed at the sight of the ocean, remembering her promise with Victor to swim. Kelvin agrees to teach her, but first they head to the guild and turn in the bandits. Kelvin meets with Miss the guildmaster in Torridge. She has heard all about Kelvin from Leo, who she used to be in a party with. Kelvin informs Miss that the boss of Black Wind is actually the champion of Trison named Christoph. He pretended to destroy the gang but instead took over it from the shadows and is involved with illegal slave trading. Christoph is in town, but they can't accuse him without solid proof. Kelvin is actually not too interested because Christoph is only level 70 and poses no challenge. Suddenly Kelvin detects the presence of the Empire's heroes and suggests that they can handle the bandits. With this suggestion, Mist requests the heroes to investigate the bandit hideout. Wanting to help the people, they accept the request. However, Kelvin has something planned. At the bandit hideout there is a room of kidnapped women. One of the bandits enters and tries to grab one of the girls, but Kelvin arrives and Gerard knocks him out. Meanwhile, Christoph and his lieutenants discuss the loss of one of their squads. There is a knock at the door and Kelvin's party bursts in. However, Kelvin is not there to fight them. He quickly ends things with Christoph to prepare for the main event. The heroes arrive. At the hideout they find it strange that it's empty. They come across Clotho and try to fight it, but one of the slaves protect it, saying it belongs to their savior. They introduce themselves as the heroes of Daramis. Upon hearing this, all the slaves are relieved. One of the heroes is also a summoner and is able to talk to Clotho. He tells her he was left to protect the slaves. One of the slaves urged the heroes to help Kelvin with the bandits. The heroes rush on ahead and find the defeated Christoph and his lieutenants on the floor. Thinking that they were the adventurers who had saved the slaves, the heroes find Kelvin and his team pretending to be the true leaders of Black Wind. Our team are confronted by the four heroes of the Empire: Toya, Satsuna, Mazoka and Miyabi. Kelvin taunts the heroes and challenges them to a game. He offers to fight them all by himself, with the loser forced to obey an order from the winner. Toya doesn't want to fight in such a dishonorable way, but Satsuna cautions him and convinces him to fight. Together they all agree and accept Kelvin's game. Ephil reveals Kelvin's plan to order the heroes to act as witnesses to Christoph's involvement with the bandits and get around his protection from Trison. Gerard comments on how Kelvin is such a battle junkie, pretending to be bandits just to fight with the heroes. Ephil worried for him and tells him not to underestimate them just because they are lower level than him. Kelvin is however keen to test his abilities and his new skill, Eater Gloves. The heroes begin their attack by first summoning their spirits to boost their power. Toya charges in, but Kelvin counters with a blast of magic. While the heroes defend against the attack, Kelvin dashes past and approaches Mazoka. However, she calls out her dragon who breathes fire at Kelvin. Kelvin enhances his speed and manages to dodge the flames. He appears behind Miyabi and uses his skill eater glove to steal her skill. Sarah explains that each glove can copy one skill at a time and that she also let Kelvin borrow one of her skills. With this, Kelvin steals Miyabi's unique skill parallel processing. Toya rushes to help but Kelvin dodges his strikes. Setsuna and Mazoka heal Miyabi while Toya continues to fight on his own, believing he has the advantage in close quarters. However, Kelvin fights back thanks to borrowing Sarah's S-ranked fighter skill. He overwhelms Toya, but Setsuna comes to his aid. Kelvin dodges her slash and summons a giant wall to defend himself. Setsuna uses her unique ability to cut through anything to destroy the wall with a single slash. But as the wall disappears, Kelvin lunges toward her. He fires an enormous fireball at her, but Toya manages to get him the way and block the attack. Mazoka tries to heal him, but Toya claims he is okay, proclaiming that this is nothing if he is to defeat the Demon Lord one day.
I like it, Kaji.
But Setsuna slaps him. She is mad that he sacrificed himself and tells him he needs to cherish himself more and rely on his team. Mazoka and Miyabi both agree and Toya apologizes and they agree to fight as a team again. As Kelvin prepares to continue their fight, a spirit appears and explodes with a blinding light. Mazoka uses her frost spell to freeze him in place and Miyabi uses her gravity magic to further restrict his movements. With Kelvin locked in place, Toya and Setsuna charge at him, but Kelvin uses his detonation spell, causing a huge explosion around him. Toya and Setsuna are caught by the explosion, but both manage to survive thanks to protection from their spirits. As the smoke clears, Kelvin applauds their attempt. The heroes are shocked he is completely unharmed from the explosion. Kelvin criticizes their amateur approach and even gives them hints on how to improve. He calls out Toya for not using his unique skill. Realizing he can't hide it, Toya reveals the true form of his sword, splitting into two swords, allowing him to duel. He rushes at Kelvin once again but is backed up by his team. Mazoka uses her ultimate spell Frozen Temple, which creates a massive pillar of ice and completely binds Kelvin. Miyabi summons her strongest minion. Sarah taunts Kelvin from the sidelines, offering to rescue him, which he declines. Miyabi then attacks with a blast of dark energy, but Kelvin calls for some golems to absorb the attack. He orders them to buy him 30 seconds and begins to create a new spell to free himself from his predicament. Normally new spells can take days to create, but thanks to the parallel processing he stole, he can speed up the process. Mazoka warns the others about the new spell and Setsuna slashes through the golems. However, Kelvin finishes creating his spell and unleashes a barrage of energy that simultaneously destroys all of the ice. Freeing himself, Setsuna lunges at him and slashes, but Kelvin is faster than her and delivers a blow to her stomach. He easily dodges the ogre's attacks with his speed and knocks out Miyabi. Mazoka tries to help riding on her dragon but gets blown out of the sky. Toya catches her and becomes enraged. He attacks wildly at Kelvin but ultimately gets knocked out with a single punch. When Toya wakes up, he finds the rest of his team with him. The young slave girl sits on Kelvin's lap with Clotho and Toya demands that Kelvin let her go.
Stupid!
Kelvin tells him to have a better look and he realizes that the girl is there willingly and that Kelvin was actually the adventurer that saved them. Toya is confused why they didn't just clear up the misunderstanding, but realizes how Kelvin had given them tips to help them improve. He admits defeat and thanks Kelvin, calling him his master. Kelvin reminds him that they promised to obey his order. Toya is prepared for anything, but Kelvin orders them to strip their clothes. He has them all change into swim clothes and takes them to a sea cave to train. The heroes struggle as they fight against a giant octopus. Its skin is too soft and slippery to cut through. Kelvin watches on, unimpressed, yelling out ways to help them improve. Eventually the heroes manage to defeat the octopus and the group have a break for lunch. Kelvin notes how they struggled against the octopus, so they stand no chance against a dungeon boss or the demon lord. Kelvin asks what they would do if they come across a monster they cannot defeat. Meanwhile, Sarah has fished up the dungeon boss dragon. Toya says they would retreat to train and prepare and fight it again once they were stronger. Kelvin is satisfied with this answer and goes to handle the dragon. After that, the heroes take their leave, getting on a ship to the western continent. Kelvin gives them some pendants as a parting gift and they say their goodbyes. As Kelvin watches them sail away, he asks Gerard about the western continent. It's home to the elves that destroyed Gerard's kingdom, and Kelvin asks if they are strong enough to get revenge. Gerard is touched that Kelvin remembers and suggests that they would be able to. Sarah interrupts and mentions that they are being summoned by the Queen of Torridge. They go to the castle, which Kelvin recognizes as looking Japanese. Gerard mentions the first king of Taurus was also said to be from another world. They enter the castle and pay their respects to the queen. She thanks them for resolving the issues with the bandits and for defeating the dragon boss. She offers to reward them, but all Kelvin asks for is to have some of her rice. The queen is amused at the request and grants him a lifetime supply. They have a feast and Kelvin finally gets to have some rice. The others watch on amuse as Kelvin has his fill of rice. A few days later, Kelvin has been staying at the castle at the request of the queen. Afiel brings him his lunch and she has already mastered all of the Japanese dishes. The queen joins him for lunch, saying that Afiel makes the best food she has ever had. She tries to convince Kelvin to give Afiel to her, but he turns her down. She then attempts to proposition Kelvin to stay in Torch and take care of her personally. But he quickly declines and suggests it's time for them to
You are dead!
leave. To get back to Parth, the queen lets them use the teleportation gate. Back in the city, Kelvin buys a new house for the party. He even hires 2 of the slaves he freed, Ellie and her daughter Luca, as household servants. At night, Kelvin has trouble getting used to his new bed. He quickly gets up as he senses Melfina's return with her avatar body. She tells him that he can now summon her and that she will win his heart. Kelvin summons her. As her angelic presence is revealed, she asks him what he thinks, and he becomes nervous and sees how his past self fell in love with her at first sight. And that's the end of the video. Don't forget to give me a like and subscribe to my channel. I will bring more excitement anime in the future. Thanks for watching. Bye.